Hello and welcome. Welcome to Soul Sessions. I'm very excited today. I can't tell you, my heart is pounding. Maybe it's just because I pulled off the intro. I don't know, but I'm very excited to be here today and very excited to be here today with our special guest, Robert Brunjes. Thank you and welcome, Robert.
Delighted to be here.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And I'm just so delighted to be able to co-create with you today on these conversations and the education and learning we're going to get about souls. It's been a passion of mine for some time now, and to be able to play in the field is a real treat for me. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, Sun Psychic Jean and My Rock. Hello, Butterfly Kisses, Starfish, Terry Suzuki. Hello, all you beautiful souls. Juno Soul, Juno Sphere. And I just really am happy for your support and your love. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. I was just asking Robert about, where he's located and what the temperature is like. And he's back east getting some of that lovely Arctic air.
Yeah, up here in the Midwest, we're getting our first Arctic blast of the season. I'm listening to the news today. It is literally an Arctic blast that's coming
Yeah.
down. So we're going to be in the depth of it, I think, sometime tonight. And it's moving east. So those of you that are east of where I am, you can look
Get
forward to
ready.
a really cool weekend.
Get ready. Well, I have this favorite weatherman. His name is Ryan Hall, y'all. That's the name of his YouTube channel. He's an excellent weatherman to follow, and he's so entertaining to watch. But as you know, his show is progressing. They're showing like this Arctic air coming down, and to see the visual of it, it's really astounding how massive it is. Huge. All right. Well, I just want to remind everyone that yes, I will be taking questions from the channel today. We did not get any from the community page, which is fine because I have a few myself. And we are going to just select those as we're talking. I'll reach over and select them. If I happen to miss you, I'm sorry. We'll catch it on the next episode. But we're going to try to really dive in today to these very interesting questions about souls. All right. So, Robert, would you like to start by a brief intro about how you became aware of your abilities, how you became aware of the Akashic Records, and were gifted to read them?
I think my first awareness was many years ago when I began to read about Edgar Casey. And of course,
Oh.
he is this very famous reader. And
Mm.
after that, what I discovered is that there were programs that we could go through to learn how to open up our own records and then ultimately learn to open the records of other people. But it's a subject that had always fascinated me.
Right.
And so it was about 18 years ago or so. I was actually at a Mind Body Expo up here in the cities. And there was a world-class reader that did a lecture. And I was just fascinated with some of the things that he talked about. And it was really interesting to me that he talked about this notion that time is nonlinear. And that in terms of our lifetimes, it's not necessarily chronological in a linear sort of a way that we can go backwards and forwards in time. He was published and he was offering his book out in the Commons. And so I approached him. And when I did, he looked in my eyes and he told me how I died in my last lifetime. And I knew he was right because it accounted for some of the things that I was feeling and things like that. So I thought that was just amazing. And I decided that this is something that I really wanted to do. So
Excellent. Well, you were called. I think that's the expression in a way. You were
yeah,
called. Yeah.
and your records are literally your soul's journey, basically, through your many expressions or your many lifetimes on Earth here. And so one soul, many lifetimes, many expressions. And
Mhm.
it goes beyond that, because of course we have a journey as star seeds, we have a journey to the galaxy as well. So
It's
a record
fascinating.
for that. So
I believe that since I've been studying and being drawn to this myself, my life has expanded in ways I never imagined before. I mean, when I first began to learn to be a medium, a psychic medium, and practice with other psychic mediums, my awareness, my aura expanded. I mean, life was clearer. It was crystal clear and it felt wonderful. And then when I began to be drawn into these books about soul lives, and I really began to understand another addition to my life that I can add that clarifies things, not only for myself, but for those I have relationships with. So I can see them as a soul and I can imagine perhaps their soul lives or what perhaps is driving them to behave or react in the way that they're reacting. So
yeah, that's very true. I think that as you begin to expand your awareness and expand your consciousness, you begin to appreciate the being that you really are.
yes,
That we're much more than this corporeal self,
yes.
that are here on earth for this lifetime. So
And we were gifted the ability to experience this lifetime far more than just 3D. And that's the thing that is that can make you so joyful and peaceful and happy and aware, uber aware, I would say, uber aware of what's going on around you. I mean, to me, I just I had a tough beginning, and a lot of my life was surrounded around surviving, and caring for my family, and um, always had the spiritual knowledge. But when it began to expand, I just felt so free from, fear, worry, fret. It's hard to describe, but it's a wonderful thing. And, I'm going to say this several times during the broadcast today. So just in case someone misses it, I did have a reading with Robert. I highly recommend it. It has just been an amazing experience for me and one that I will always cherish. So thank you, Robert.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does shift you energetically. And what happens is that with this new awareness, it puts you in a different place.
Yes.
You begin to reframe your experiences. And going into your records, actually, that's one of the things that is brought forward is this insight and this perspective. What was your soul's intent?
Hmm.
What was it that your soul wanted to master in this lifetime? What did your
Hmm.
soul want you to experience? What were some of the lessons that your soul had planned? And of course, in the background on all of this is your purpose.
Yes.
And the light workers that are here and everyone that's watching today, it's no accident that you're here right now at this
Absolutely.
time. So,
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to dive in to a question. Let's get right to it if you're ready. Um, could you please tell us your definition of the Akashic Records?
well, it's simply put, it is a divine energetic record of all your expressions, all of your lifetimes here on earth. And I would emphasize the word energetic because it's actually a quantum energy, and
Hmm.
it's kind of interesting because one of the places that we hold our records is actually within our DNA, and it's actually the eighth layer, which is one of these light strands of the ethereal strands of our DNA, is referred to as the Akashic layer, which is actually a Lemurian strand. And I think that many people are familiar with the notion that we were genetically seeded by the Lemurians.
Yes.
And so, but it's a quantum energy that is resident there. And if there's a situation where either the experience or the person might be really pushing your buttons, for example. And
That
so
never happens.
it might be a situation where that is, you've crossed paths before and there's a resident energy there.
Hmm.
So if you think of the records as an energy that is literally resident and vibrating in every cell of your body, That's what's happening.
That's amazing.
And there's some things, of course, that we're innately afraid of. You might be afraid to fly, you might be afraid of this
Mm.
or that. But oftentimes, those things can also be traced to something that happened that's resident in your car, something that might have happened to you in the past. So,
That's awesome. I also want to ask, and I want to ask a little bit about that in a minute, but I want to continue this question with can you explain the vibrational imprint, and I think you kind of just did, of the soul contained in the Akashic Records?
yeah, it's your footprint within this universal energy we refer to as the Akash, and so it's your soul's journey, and it literally is a record, and so
Yeah, that's amazing. I do have a question about DNA, and I'm curious about that, because I understand that our DNA has been edited, that you can actually see, and I saw an image of it where they call it a knot. It's a knot in our DNA. So as we progressed in time, was it the Lemurians or other beings who were allowed to alter our DNA in some fashion?
um, our DNA is actually kind of a cocktail of a number of different races, and
Yeah.
so it was the Lemurians that genetically seeded us. That's true, and that was about 200,000 years ago.
Okay.
And they genetically seeded the original humans. And so additional layers were added to our DNA. It provided us with the ability to, uh, and soul, to have the soul,
Okay.
to have a part of our soul be with us as we're incarnate within the 3D. So,
Okay. Excellent. All right. Now we're going to get down to the good stuff. Okay. So, not that that was good, but I love this. Okay. So, without telling us who, of course, how many lifetimes is the largest number of lifetimes in any one person that you have read?
that's a really nice linear question.
Hey, I
um,
don't mess. I get
I
down.
have I have done readings for people that have had as few as, well, less than 10 expressions on Earth
Okay.
and as many as 1,000. And so, but to put it in context, if someone had less than 10, that doesn't mean that they're not an evolved being. It's
Right.
just
Correct.
that the growth, the perfection, the evolvement of the soul took place someplace else. So,
Okay. And is it possible that perhaps the people we assume that someone who's had many, many lifetimes is a highly advanced soul, but it could be that they just have to keep redoing it over and over again until they get the message. Is that correct?
well, it's also, let's say, for example, it depends upon what you decide to take on in a given lifetime.
Okay.
And it's true, some of these life lessons are very challenging. The ability to stand in your power, for example.
Hmm.
You may not master that in a lifetime. It may take a couple. So
Yeah.
how much is the soul willing to take on? To what degree is the soul going to load up their plate, so to speak? And and time is not an issue. So
Right.
think in that context.
It's interesting, and it's before I became on this part of the journey. But I always used to have a saying, and I said this when I had cancer: if this is a lesson, I'm going to pass it. Always had that feeling like there were things you know that were so essential in life to grasp and pass and overcome. And that's fascinating stuff. I'm going to take a minute now and say hello to a few more people who've joined us. Ron, everything's going to be okay. Ron, Unconditional Love Tarot is here. Thank you, Ron. You are so wonderful to support me, and I really appreciate you being at almost, I think, every one of my shows. So thank you so much. And uh, also, as we heal, Period, I think, and the Chrome Zone, which I'm excited. I think I'm going to be on the Chrome Zone pretty soon, and I'm really looking forward to being with those beautiful ladies. Okay, and Viviane and Deb Marsh. Hello, Deb. Welcome and thank you for joining us. All right, we're going to move on to another question now. Is it your understanding that a soul chooses its next lifetime on this or other planets based on the opportunity for growth and expansion in the areas that it needs?
Yes, it's all about growth and the evolvement and perfection of the soul.
Mhm.
And in any given lifetime, the soul will have objectives. So we choose the family, we choose the circumstances, all these things that we're born into
Mhm.
within that incarnation. So, and we're working with the other souls as well. So we
Right.
have agreements with other souls that perhaps they'll help us with our life lesson. And perhaps on the other side of the veil, so to speak, we'll ask them to act in a certain way.
Yeah. Yes.
You might even ask them to act badly in order to help you through a life lesson. So it's kind of interesting. So you have to kind of expand your consciousness in terms of how you think about what it is, the
Mhm.
dynamics
Mhm.
of our being here. So
It's so incredibly well and complicated. And just on that point, a lot of people think, whoa, we reincarnate, then I'm going to come back as a fabulous, famous superstar who has all the money, all the riches, everything going for me. Doesn't work that way. And that may be an actual difficult life. So it's, yeah,
that's a
go
really
ahead.
good point. It might be. I mean, obviously, we know celebrities, we know celebrity athletes, we know Michael Jordan, we know Tiger Woods,
Yeah.
but those lifetimes, I would suggest that they're perfect for what it is that their soul wanted to experience, and we really don't know what their challenges really are. So,
Mhm.
or really were, or what the intent was. So,
Yes. Yes. And that's the fascinating thing when you start to discover this. And I began to think of people who gave me the biggest challenges in my life and how it helps you forgive them and understand them, knowing that they, in fact, agreed to come and help you learn this lesson that you learned. So, yeah, I love that. It doesn't always occur to us when it's happening.
sure. And many times the old souls will tell me that they don't feel connected to their family, or the
Ah,
family of origin was a really bumpy ride. And
right.
oftentimes the old souls will have agreements to help the younger souls.
Yeah,
And when we have these agreements, sometimes the younger soul may or may not step up to the plate. And
right.
so at that moment in time, of course, that is where we need to consider. Um, we need to consider the difference between what is compassion that you would want to exercise and what is sacrifice. And at
Right.
the moment that energy turns to a sacrifice where you begin to compromise yourself, then of
Yes.
course that's the time to step away.
Hmm. Interesting. I love it. Well said, by the way. Okay. So we did touch a base on this. In choosing a lifetime, how do you think DNA and ancestry fit in? What do you think about reincarnation through family lines? And how often do you see that occurring?
We tend to incarnate with a lot of the same people, and oftentimes these people will be part of the so-called soul group. But there's a couple of, you could look at that on a couple of different levels. One would be the biological DNA. And
Hmm.
that is to say that if within your ancestry, something, well, let's say, for example, you were a Western European. Let's say,
Okay.
for example, your ancestry, biologically now speaking, might have experienced the potato famine years ago, 100
Hmm.
years ago.
Okay.
What researchers have determined is that does influence you. And of
Okay.
course, Bruce Lipton tends to be, this is a new science referred to as epigenetics. Dr. Bruce
Hmm.
Lipton is a guiding light
Yes.
now. And he talks about that in his book, The Biology of Belief.
Okay.
And So that impacts you. The good news is that what Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about also is that this DNA is much more malleable than we think it is.
Oh,
So
really?
our belief system shapes our DNA as well as this biological ancestry that we might inherit.
Okay.
And then, of course, you can look at the DNA from the perspective of your soul, and that is, of course, the records, your previous
Mhm.
lifetimes as this soul that has many lifetimes on earth. And there's many things that you've mastered. And we have this quantum energy within our DNA, where the records are resident. And so that's affecting us. And then, of course, there's another level. It goes to another level, of course, what about before our expressions here on Earth? And
Mhm.
that is when you get into the galactic aspect of the DNA. So,
Okay. You just blew my mind, Robert. I don't know anybody out there have their mind blown just now. That's amazing and fascinating that it actually alternates and changes um, in your DNA. That's amazing.
yeah, and I think it's one of the reasons why you kind of want to hone in. You want to be aware of your belief systems because that
Hmm.
is literally shaping your DNA. And it's kind of interesting when you get into the study of the ethereal aspects of the DNA,
Hmm.
which, by the way, in our new energies are becoming more and more activated. There's a layer of the DNA, which is our third layer, which is referred to as the divine human, and
Hmm.
that's the transitional layer. And so the biological layer is actually reacting to the material and what's happening kind of in the other layers, including your records.
Wow.
And so what you're doing physically or how your experience physically is impacted by these non-physical layers of your DNA.
Hmm. Wow.
That's great. Yeah, Juno has a great question in terms of
Yes, I actually starred that. Should we take a check this question now? Excuse me. Juno Spheres ask, is there any way to utilize access to the Akashic Records to bring about physical healing in this present lifetime? What a great question.
yeah, it does. It's an excellent tool for that.
Hmm.
It's possible that you have a health issue that is rooted in a past lifetime. And so we've all had some bad experiences. Um, the light workers, more likely than not, have had past lifetimes as a shaman or something like that. And it's been a rough go of shamans through history. And there's things that might have happened to them. But within the records, you can identify if the physical ailment is something that was crafted or shaped by the soul. In other
Hmm.
words, tended to experience it. And then you can begin to explore why. So, in other words, what is it that you had to do? What is it that you had to learn? What belief system did you need to shift in order to begin to mitigate and resolve the physical remedy?
Wow.
And other times, there's things that happen that we do in our lives that uh, if there's unhealthy things by
Hmm.
virtue of the lifestyle,
Hmm.
it's created problems. You do gain insight to the records in terms of how you might remedy that, whether
Hmm.
you might respond to it on an energetic level. The energy healing, for example, might
Hmm.
be a path forward for you and that type of a thing. So,
Interesting. Great question, Juno. I'm wondering too if sometimes we access things, our soul accesses things that our mind is really not aware of. And so we reach a certain level where we're given what we need even before we need it. And I'll give you an example. I was at a fair, an outdoor fair one year, and I happened upon this lovely Native American lady who was selling her little power pouches, little leather pouches filled with little crystals. And then she would give you a reading. So I purchased my pouch, and she gave me a reading. And one part of it, the most powerful part, was you know how to heal yourself. And I was like, wow, that's really great. She told me some other things that were really relevant in my life. And then not too long after that, I was diagnosed with cancer. So that spurred some of the best meditations I've ever had in my life. That was just the thing. I dove right into meditation deeply every day, solid. And I was much better then than I am now. Shame on me. But it was so intense and so deep that it sparked something inside of me, and I could feel something change. And it was at that point where I said, if this is my exit point, I'm going to do it gracefully. And if it isn't, I'm going to go on to explore and do great things. And so that was a powerful point for me. I think that I did feel something change inside my soul. And it's not just the seriousness of the illness, but it was far more than that. So great question, Juno. Thank you so much. Let's see. Oh, she has a comment on that. Let's bring that forward. It is said that physics cannot, or maybe should not, or psychics, I'm sorry. It is said that psychics cannot, or maybe should not, read themselves. Does this idea also pertain to reading your own Akashic records, as opposed to having someone else read them for you? Thank you.
I'll address it from the Akashic Records standpoint. And one of the reasons that I also wanted to begin to open up my own records was, understanding my soul's path. At the time, I had a lot of challenging professional and personal relationships. And so I wanted to gain an insight about that. And I did. And that, of course, shifted my energy and how I was responding and reacting to these situations.
Okay.
So one of the things that you can do with the records is that, number one, when the understanding comes forward, it shifts your energy. And a lot of times the understanding provides a healing of the heart. And so you move forward with a freedom you might not have had before. So in that sense, I'd say you should do it. You can, obviously what can happen is that when you open the records, how are the record keepers or the masters communicating with you? And what you want to be looking at is, what is it they're saying and what it is that you're applying your own filters to. And so what you want to do is you want to place yourself in kind of a non-biased, non-filtered sort of a way. And then it's fine. But the record keepers will always communicate with you in a way, in the best possible way for you to receive and understand the information, whatever that is. It might be visually orientated. It might be sound. It might be something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Excellent question, Juno.
So in terms of psychics, at the end of the day, when we access, when we have this channeled material, we're really channeling our higher self.
Yeah.
And when you're comfortable that you're connected with your higher self, the best channeled information on the planet is that information that you're bringing from your higher self.
Wow, that's really great. And I have to say that in my experience, and it just came to me one day. It came from my guides or my higher self, but the things that we collect in our lives or the things that draw us can give us clear indication of a past life as well. And it occurred to me, and I think I told Robert in our reading, in my home, you walk into my home And you'll see I have a portrait from India of one of the gods there. And then I also have a very large Buddha statue. I have Celtic crosses. And I also have like had a habit since childhood of building little altars, like with stones and feathers. And it occurred to me one day, that these are indications of our past lives. That can be, I mean, that's not reading your past life, but that can be a doorway for your mind to kind of open up and go, oh, well, maybe this is why I have a fascination with this. And I will say that I did, in a class exercise, manage to read one of my classmates' past lives. And when the question was first put to us that you're going to go read your classmate's past life, I'm thinking, no, man, oh man, that's a tricky one. You want to make sure it's right. You want to make sure it's true. You got to draw it, from the universe and not try to, insert yourself. And it was interesting as we were both kind of meditating before we gave our answers. I looked at her and suddenly I saw her in a nun's habit. Clear as day. I was like, wow. And she, when I told her that, she said, that doesn't surprise me. There are nuns in my family. I've been surrounded by nuns my whole life. So that wouldn't surprise me that I had a past life as a nun. Whew, got through that one. And then the next one, I meditated again, and I clearly saw her as a man in Egypt, working with others around a temple and designing and organizing and explaining the chambers of this temple and what they were designed to do. Powerful. It was intriguing. Actually, it was like a little movie. I wanted to just go in there and find out what it was all about. But that's what I saw. And so I told her that, and she said, I've always had an intense fascination with Egypt, everything to do with Egypt. So those are just wonderful little breadcrumbs along the way.
They are.
Yeah.
And when I read someone's records, it's with their explicit permission. So I'm really not allowed to read someone's records unless, of course, I have their okay to do that. And the other thing is that the information on the records, sometimes people are a little bit nervous about what might come forward, and there's no need to be. I've never, well, first off, there's no judgment on the records, and
Right.
There's absolutely no judgment. And I've never heard in all the years that I've been doing it that the record keepers would bring the information forward in a negative way. I've never
Oh,
experienced negative energy.
yeah.
In fact, there's almost kind of a sweet energy. I remember doing a reading many years ago with a woman, and I actually knew her, so I knew a few things about her. But her question was, she was having some problems with her foot and walking and moving, and so she asked, what can I do to resolve this? And the answer that came forward is to love your foot as much as you love your hair. so, so it was this, and over the years, because of her ailment, she had grown to resent the ailment. She'd grown to resent her foot and things like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was a very kind of sweet humor. So
That's precious. That sounds like something, your guides would say as well. It's interesting how also in reading souls on the other side, it's all love. It's all love. I've never read an angry soul or a soul, somebody said, can you read Uncle Bob? And Uncle Bob's like, no way, man. I got upset with you or this situation. Never get that feeling. It's all love. It's all love, baby. That's wonderful. Okay, I'm going to put a question up from Lise Niedermeyer. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Please forgive me if I'm not. Or is it Niedermeyer? You let me know. How do you know you're ready since you go through different stages of your life? I'm not the same person as I was in my 30s.
Um, yes, you're not. You're always evolving, and your purpose might not be the same either. And um, this, our purpose here, that's a very common question. What is my purpose? And I get that question a lot. COVID happened to be an event where everybody kind of hit the pause button and they begin to ask exactly why am I here at this moment in time? But
Yeah.
you do go through different stages because, and your purpose at those stages through your life will shift. And what your soul intended to for you to experience will change.
Hmm.
And this is less the case, but sometimes there's actually karmic cycles that you had an agreement to kind of go through. And it's kind of interesting with karma, you know that it's over when all of a sudden the relationship is all of a sudden goes quiet. So,
Wow.
so you may have had a challenging relationship with somebody. You may have agreed to help them with their karmic burden, or they were going to help you with your karmic burden. But it's kind of interesting as you move through that. And once the karmic cycle is resolved, the relationship turns quiet. So it's kind of an interesting
Oh,
phenomenon. So,
yeah, that is interesting. As I understand it too, um, when a soul goes to select a future life, we have the commitment to forgetfulness when we come here. However, our guides have designed certain things that they reveal to us that are turning points for us. Like when this event happens in your life, this change will happen. You'll be aware of this change. Your soul will be enlightened to a certain point to turn, maybe one way or another, or to understand something or receive something. What do you think of that?
yeah, you would definitely feel a shift in your energy at that moment in time. And
Hmm.
actually, once we have kind of, once we once we've actually mastered what it is that our soul has wanted us to master,
Yeah.
that's it. And we don't have to go through that anymore.
Hmm.
And we've mastered things in other lifetimes. So the soul would not set up a lifetime to challenge you with things that you've already mastered. And
Right.
so your soul is concerned with those things that you haven't mastered up to this point in time.
Right.
And if you were challenged by one of those,
Hmm.
it would be nothing to you because you've already mastered that. So it's a moot issue at that moment in time.
I love it. What an exciting journey we're all living, right? It's beautiful. Okay. Let me unstar this. And I'm seeing some questions here, and I want you to know I'm getting them starred. But I'm going to stick another one of mine in because, hey, it's my show. I want to get this question in this show today. So, what are your thoughts on soul groups? And can you explain them to us? How many souls can be in a soul group? And what is the difference between a soul group and a soul cluster, if there is one?
I'm not familiar with what someone would be thinking when they're saying soul cluster.
Okay.
There are soul groups, and but we're not limited to those soul groups. And so, for example, my parents in this lifetime were actually outside of my soul group, and so,
Okay.
but there was a specific reason why I chose them
Hmm.
because everything was in alignment to do that. Um, the exact number, I think it varies, but it's several hundred people. And if you can think of, generally speaking, that there are purposes and patterns within people's lifetimes. So, for example, maybe you're a defender, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a healer. But
Hmm.
that positions you within the soul group. And if you can imagine, then the soul group is rounded out by all of these abilities, that the soul group is rounded out by these people who have had these patterns and these expressions. So
Wow. Okay. That's beautiful. Yes, I understood it by what I was studying, that there are soul clusters that are tighter than the soul groups, and perhaps it's souls that you've shared many, many, many lifetimes with, and you're really familiar with, and so you can share a lot of your observa- observations and experiences in a more in-depth way with each other. So that's kind of where that was going. Thank you. That's beautiful. How exciting is this, everybody? I mean, think about it. How big does this make your life feel right now? Okay, I have another question. This one is from Lisa Rhodes. The Akashic Records, are they just the past life? If they include our future, how does free will come in? Good question, Lisa.
it's not entirely about our past lives.
Hmm.
Sometimes the things that we'll be doing in this lifetime will be actually intended for what your soul's intent it is to do in your next lifetime. But nothing is cast in stone. Nothing is cast in stone within this lifetime, actually. And you have free will at all levels of your being. So,
Hmm.
for example, even if you've had an agreement with someone or a contract, you can change that. You can go to Plan B. So nothing, even in terms of this lifetime, you always have the ability to change that, change what your contract was. But that's a great question.
That is a beautiful question. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for participating. Really, really appreciate it. What a wonderful group we've got with us today, really. Um, it's fascinating to me that free will given to everyone, especially as a psychic medium, sometimes people will say, well, can you tell us what's going to happen with this situation? And when you think about all of the complications of the people involved in it, you can get close. But if you see a lot of the really great psychics saying, well, it's not congealed yet. I can't really see it yet. It's coming together, and I can have an answer for you, but it's just too much free will involved at this point.
It is. It is about potentialities, largely
Hmm.
about potentialities. And I think that's where one of the things that I think Edgar Casey was really good at that. I think he had the ability to kind of perceive and meld with all of the potentialities. So,
Hmm. He was one of the first uh, dear, powerful souls that I read as a young girl, and I was so fascinated with. It set in the back of my mind and my spirit, and kind of is part of all the stuff that I'm into today. But what an amazing being! I mean, just such a message to all of us, and so ahead of his time, right? Um, I do have a question. This one's not on my list. I want to ask you if you feel that now, currently, there is an advancement of souls being made aware of this information. It seems to me, like, back in the day of Edgar Casey, some people were able to grasp that and understand it. But it does seem like now, it seems like there are so many more people that are hungry for it and perhaps are sensing the vastness of our existence and what that means.
yeah, we're going through a shifting of energy on the planet. And of course, there's an awakening. And there's a spiritual awakening for people. And so they're actually, by virtue of the shifting of energy on a global scale, their personal energy is shifting and there's activations that are occurring. And so,
Hmm.
and one of those activations would be some of the some of the energies of the Akash. And so it's kind of a wanting to know.
Hmm.
And it's kind of an interesting combination of things that's happening right now. We've got these, we've got some
To say the
actors,
least.
we've got some bad actors on a global
Yeah.
scale, and
Mhm.
um, and so there's very difficult times, and
Mhm.
but at the same time, we're going through kind of this spiritual awakening globally,
Mhm.
and So at the end of the day, right now, in terms of the quotient of light and darkness on the planet, light is actually winning. And
Yay.
it's important for everyone that's watching. It's
Hmm.
important for all of the light workers to maintain their light and to embrace it, maintain it, and believe that light is going to win because it is. So
Absolutely. I think that's part of the reason why so many of us are being made aware of our power as souls on the planet at this point in time. And the guides brought to me that, we each have, when we're born as a soul, we have a unique contribution to the cosmic consciousness. Unique. So when we raise our vibration, when we are aware of our light and we know that we have that power, it raises the level of cosmic consciousness. So I find that
it
very
does.
exciting.
It does. Everything that we think goes into this field of consciousness around the planet, and
Yeah.
the and there are people like Lynn McTaggart that have done collective experiments and collective intent and so on.
Right.
And so when there is when your energetic alignment is such with this global, with this field of consciousness, you can actually change the physics of things. And so,
Ooh.
you can change what's happening in the world. So
I believe that. I highly resonate with that. And, we've had so many fascinating people come up with this information for us over the past few years. Esther Hicks and Wayne Dyer. Many of those people came forth to give this message to us. And now it's had time to take seed and grow. And it's so fascinating to see it happening in our community right now.
yeah, and some people have expressed it in the terms of, well, for example, Lee Carroll, and people know that he channels Cryon. And
Yes.
Cryon has actually expressed it as this 36-year window that began with the precession of the equinoxes in 1994
Wow.
and will continue to 2030. And of
Oh.
course, 2012 was in the very middle of this 36-year window.
Hmm.
But it is actually, he would suggest that there is this is actually an astronomical phenomena, and there is a real physical shift in terms of what's happening with the alignment of the earth and the energies on earth. So
So many things happening right now. So
it
many
is.
things.
It is. And it's actually, if you look at it, you can look at it from the standpoint of, this is a wonderful time for us in terms of the soul's evolution because we get to go on an accelerated path.
Yes.
So we get to jump into the fast lane here
Hmm.
within this window of time. So
I've often felt and known that many of us, and I know certainly I myself, we picked this time because there's so many opportunities for us to advance in this lifetime with what's going on this planet right now. It's just, oh, I'm getting chills. It's a wonderful time to be alive, and it's a wonderful time to share our love and our power with those who are experiencing a lot of the anxiety and fear that's going on right now, too. It's much needed. I'm going to throw one more question in. We're getting towards the end of the hour, but Cindy, we got to answer this one. Cindy P says, what happens to a guy like Hitler who seemed like evil? Does he get another life?
I believe that Hitler is sleeping in darkness, and in terms of a life expression, I think he does. I think he gets another life. Because after all, as the soul, he's entitled to evolve and perfect himself. So,
Yes, I do understand that. It's kind of a weird way to think of it, but there's some souls that are highly damaged. I mean, we all, when we pass over, we have some healing that occurs, especially with people who've had traumatic deaths or traumatic lifetimes. That there are our guides and other souls to help us heal. And at the same time, for the highly damaged souls, which would be Hitler and many other people who are have sold out to evil. They go to an intense place where there is intense time involved at the soul level for healing and repairing of the soul. But I have a question to ask then. Are there some souls who are unrepairable? I mean, it doesn't mean that they don't exist anymore. You're saying he's escaping?
I think all souls are repairable.
Good. I
But
agree.
if you looked at things from 30,000 feet, you would see kind of two groups of people: those that were in service to themselves and those that were in service to others.
Yeah.
There are people, because we have free will, that have chosen not to be part of the light. In fact, they actively shun the light.
Mm-hmm.
And so those people would tend to be the people to promote darkness, control, power over
Mm-hmm.
others, and things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And we know who these people are. And they have free will, and they have chosen not to be part of the light.
Yes.
And alternately, of course, we have the light workers who are trying to not only raise their vibration, but actually to increase their light and to actually be closer to the creative source that they know that they are part of.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting. I might add that as light workers, and when we say to each other, hold the light, part of holding the light is also holding the light for those people who are disturbing on the planet right now with those kind of attitudes that you just mentioned. So part of that holding the light is, you know, even saying, you know, this person could have a revelation at this point in their lifetime, at any point, to change their ways, and they are souls, and they are loved by the Creator and created by the Creator. So just want to kind of stick that in there. I know that I'm trying to remember who was it that said it. It was an NDE experiencer that I listened to, who said, when you send negative energy to someone by saying, oh, a judgment or whatever, how horrible they are, part of that negative energy sticks to you. So be sure to send the light and send the love, and you feel better anyway. I'm a big fan of was a big fan of Westworld. It's ended now. Oh. But I loved the part of the show where the AIs, the created beings, didn't recognize certain things. It wasn't capable for them to recognize certain things, and someone would show them something, and they would look at it, and it would be obviously there, and they'd say, "Doesn't look like anything to me." So sometimes I use that when someone starts to upset me. I say, "Doesn't look like anything to me," because goodness will prevail. So, Robert, what a fascinating show this has been. I can't thank you enough, and your wisdom, and wow, your presentation is really amazing. It's very easy. It makes it easy to absorb, and I'm sure everybody out there resonated with a lot of what we heard today. We're going to have future soul sessions shows, and you'll be able to ask questions on the community board chat. There's also some reading recommendations that I've put there. And of course, I'll be advertising the future shows coming up. And Robert, I have to say this because I think it's true. A reading with Robert, everyone, would be an excellent Christmas present. I can't think of a better one.
Thank you.
Really. I'm sure so many people would grow and be fascinated by it.
I appreciate everyone that's here today, that's watching today. I recognize a lot of names, and I appreciate that we didn't get to all the questions, but we will.
Yes, we will. You know, we're going to have several new guests coming up. I believe Medium Kim is next, and we're going to talk about soul transitions. And I think that's going to be a fascinating show. Look at my community page for that coming up. And Robert, do you have a show that you're going to be on in the near future, or?
Nothing planned in the near future. But yeah, it would be wonderful to come back.
Oh, you will be back? Yes.
There's as we move forward, of course. Well, part of my path is not only to be able to provide some insight for people in terms of their Akash and their records and that type of thing, but the other thing is that part of my path is actually how do we transition the veil? So, for example, at this moment in time, the veil is much more transparent than it has been in the past. And
Yes.
so we don't have to die to transition. We're in a place and we're in an energy now where we can move to the other side of the veil and you can move into, you can meet your soul. You can move into your soul space.
Mm. Yeah, it's like walking in two worlds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now we walk between two worlds. Thank you for the invitation, Ron. I'll do that.
Awesome. Well, Robert, if you would permit me, Irie? Oh, she's not coming. Hold on just a moment. Irie, do you have a wish for everyone? Okay, come in. Hold on a second. Okay. Here's a lovely little soul, my granddaughter Irie, and she and my new puppy Ace want to wish you all something.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Irie. Life is good. La vie est belle, huh? So, one more thank you to all the people who support us. We appreciate you. And I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for joining us today. Robert, thanks again. And we'll have you back on again soon. I got chills today. It was very powerful. And I'm sure everybody else. So wonderful. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Blessings and enjoy your life on planet Earth.